Hello and welcome to One More Thing, a channel digging into the craft, psychology and brilliance of Columbo. If you're new here, hello! Subscribe and settle in. There's always just one more thing. Also, yes, hello, cheerio, how you doing? What's happening, love? You all right? I am British. I know some of you thought I was American because of the voiceovers, but I thought, why not try my own voice with this one? Anyways, let's get back to the video. So today's video is the first part of the Columbo Family Tree series. I went through every single episode in seasons 1 and 2, and I wrote down every single time Columbo mentions a family member. And that got turned into this. We'll eventually go through every season, but if I had tried to do all 10 seasons at once, my brain might have burst into flames. So we're doing this in stages. Think of it as a serialized investigation. Very fitting for Columbo, actually. Now, quick disclaimer before we begin. For this video, I am treating all family mentions as canon. Yes, some sound more believable than others. Yes, some of them are probably lies, tactical distractions that Columbo uses to disarm his suspects. Yes, some of them contradict each other. But that's a whole other video, and honestly, I need to recover from making this one first. However, if you have any strong theories or corrections, then do leave them in the comments and we'll make some edits before the next episode. Alright, here's the plan. We are going to walk through the family tree, starting with Columbo's grandparents and parents, then his uncles, and then moving down to his siblings and nephews. After that, we'll tackle Mrs. Columbo's enormous family. He talks about her side way more than his own. And finally, at the end, we'll reveal the whole tree again so you can see how chaotic this poor man's extended universe actually is. Let's get into it. Part 1, Columbo's own family. The side he barely talks about in comparison to the in-laws. Columbo's grandfather is mentioned in Season 2, Episode 7, The Most Dangerous Match, starring Lawrence Harvey as Emmett Clayton, the chess mastermind who manages to commit probably the most unnecessary murder of the entire series. You killed your cheerful chess rival just so you wouldn't lose on the international stage, and then you failed to kill him properly, so you tried again. The dedication is almost admirable. Anyway, in this episode, Columbo casually mentions that his grandfather wore dentures at 40. That's kind of young to us, but then, judging from, if I do some maths, 1800s, okay. We don't know if this grandfather is on his mother's side or his father's side, and since the show never really tells us, I've placed him on the father's side for now. Completely arbitrary decision. If you have an argument that he belongs on his mother's side, then do drop it in the comments and I may or may not ignore it. I'm kidding. I'll read every single one. Probably. Okay, to Columbo's parents now. Season 2, Episode 4, Dagger of the Mind, aka the London episode. I initially did not like this episode. I'm not a fan of how non-British shows usually make British people sound. It's always this sort of theatrical, overly posh accent that nobody actually has. But after watching it again for the purpose of this video, I found myself enjoying it. And yes, while I clearly do not speak like these actors in that episode, it's actually fairly accurate. I'll allow it. In this episode, the mystery is solid, the setting is fun, and Columbo's fish out of water energy really works. His tourist moments make me laugh every single time. When speaking to Detective Chief Superintendent Dirk in a country club, Columbo mentions his father was an elk once.
My father was an elk once.
Specifically, a member of the Benevolent and Protective Order of Elks. It's a fraternal organisation founded in 1868 in New York, basically a social club. So we learn that his father was at least briefly involved in community life. And then Columbo says, until my mother made him quit.
Until my mother stopped him.
Now we know the father existed, the mother existed, and the mother won in this argument. As it should be. Okay, to Columbo's uncle now. In Season 2, Episode 5, Requiem for a Falling Star, with the fabulous Anne Baxter starring as Nora Chandler. I've seen her acting get quite a lot of hate for this episode, but I really like it. She plays the conceited, blasé Nora really well.
Somehow he does admire you. Truly, he does know.
Oh, yeah, of course. Who doesn't?
Not to mention, she is giving us look after look. Props to Edith Head, who was actually featured in this episode. After discussing Nora's husband, who we later find out has been buried underneath her fountain all these years, Columbo mentions that he has an uncle who played in the Shriners Band.
I had an uncle, he played bagpipes in the Shriners Band. He couldn't play a note, but nobody could tell the difference.
For those who don't know, including myself up until last week, Shriners International is an American Masonic fraternity known for its social events, fun and fellowship, and then also some charity stuff about hospitals for children or something of that sort. So considering the fact that it was Columbo's father who was an elk, I'm just going to assume that it was this guy's brother who was in another fraternity. So I've placed the uncle on the father's side. Again, if you think he belongs elsewhere, just let me know, share your thoughts in the comments, and I will make some edits. What I find fascinating is that Columbo comes from this world of community organisations and working class solidarity. His family wasn't wealthy, we know that from quite a few context clues throughout the show, but they seem to have been connected and, participated in social life. Maybe that's why Columbo was so good at his job. He understands people because he grew up with people who actually loved and knew their neighbours. Okay, on to part 2, Columbo's siblings and nephews. We hear surprisingly little about Columbo's own siblings, especially compared to the in-laws, who could genuinely have their own sitcom with the amount of detail that we get about them. But the show does give us a few clues, and this is where things get interesting. Okay, we have evidence of at least one sibling. In season 2, episode 3, The Most Crucial Game, which is my least favourite of series 2, he tells the loving Eve Babcock that her accent reminds him of his nephew's wife.
And I got a nephew who married a girl. She's got the same kind of accent, but she's Hungarian. Do you have another name?
Therefore, we have a nephew with a Hungarian wife. Now, let's break this down. Could the nephew be on Mrs. Columbo's side? Possibly. But typically, people would say my wife's nephew or nephew-in-law. I mean, it's not impossible, but it feels less likely to me. When you're talking about your spouse's side of the family, you usually make that distinction, don't you? You say my wife's cousin or brother-in-law. You let me know. I'm not married, so I actually don't know. So you guys let me know. So for now, I'm placing the nephew on Columbo's side, which means that Columbo has at least one sibling, a brother or sister who had a son, who then married a Hungarian woman. Okay, this is a lot. Hopefully you're still with me. Fingers crossed. Let's move on. So I'm having to re-record this part because I forgot about the cousin. Back to The Most Crucial Match, so season 2, episode 7. Columbo is talking to Clayton and he mentions to him that he has a cousin in Albany, thick glasses, that really loves chess.
I want to say it's a great honor to meet you. I've got a cousin up there in Albany. He wears big, thick glasses and he thinks you're the greatest thing in the world.
So we've got a cousin in the mix. Which begs the question, who's their father/mother? We don't know, but I'm just going to add another sibling. It won't hurt, I promise. Okay, the next one is a bit trickier. In season 1, episode 2, Death Lends a Hand, Columbo has managed to convince widower Arthur Kennicott to exhume his wife's body in search of her contact lenses. In an effort to explain his logic to Detective Brimmer, Columbo explains that he has another nephew who wears contact lenses all the time.
My nephew wears those things, and half of the time they're falling out. Now, the other morning at breakfast, one of them ended up in the cereal.
Where do we place this nephew? I've placed him on Columbo's side. I'll come back to this after we analyse Mrs. Columbo's siblings, as there's some information that we need from over there. On to the next. Now we're getting to the fun part, because Mrs. Columbo's family? Oh, she has a squad. I definitely just revealed what generation I am by using that word. Anyways, honestly, at times it feels like he has married into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Okay, Mrs. Columbo's parents. Season 2, episode 8, Double Shock. Great episode. Martin Landau playing twins, both of whom were terrible. And we cannot forget Mrs. Peck's continuous annoyance at Columbo.
Bum! You're a bum! You must belong in some pigsty.
Okay, back to the family tree. When Dexter takes Columbo to Vegas to expose his brother's gambling debt, Columbo says that he has never been to Vegas because he was outvoted by his in-laws, so they all went to Animal Land instead.
We were supposed to come down 2 years ago, but my wife switched sides and voted with my in-laws. We ended up in Animal Land.
Now, theoretically, he could be talking about his siblings-in-law, but it's far more likely that he means her parents. We also get 2 confirmations that Mrs. Columbo's mother exists. The first one is season 2, episode 7, Back to the Chess Murder. Mrs. Columbo has gone to visit her mother for a few days in that episode.
You know, my wife went to visit her mother for a few days, and it's like...
The second one is season 2, episode 4, where Columbo mentions that his mother-in-law likes to cook.
You know, you can break that thing by putting it down upside down like that. Of course, I never knew that. Until I did it to my mother-in-law's cookbook. She almost hit me with a frying pan.
Columbo giving away way too much detail, as per usual. So yes, the mother-in-law is alive, active, and probably exhausted. We hear less about the father-in-law, but he's implied to exist. Okay, on to Mrs. Columbo's siblings, aka Columbo's many brothers-in-law. This section is a bit wild, so I'm going to give it as much structure as I can, because there are at least 4 separate brother-in-laws mentioned, possibly more, and at least 2 sisters-in-law. The first brother-in-law, George, season 1, episode 3. We learn that George is an excellent fisherman.
Well, George, my brother-in-law George, but he's a fantastic fisherman, this man, and he told me that...
And this isn't just a passing mention. Columbo actually mentions George quite a few times. So clearly, he's someone that Columbo knows, likes, and spends time with. He's mentioned again in season 2, episode 5, when Columbo gets Nora Chandler to say hello to him over the telephone.
Say hello to my brother-in-law. His name is George. Just say, hello, George.
Hello, George. This is Nora Chandler. How are you?
So he's actually at the Columbo residence at the time because Mrs. Columbo couldn't answer the phone at the time. George picked up instead, and then Columbo got Nora to speak to him. So far, George is the only brother-in-law who gets a name and recurring mentions. So that tells us something. Either he's the closest brother-in-law, or he's the only one that Columbo can actually remember the name of. Both are plausible. On to the next brother-in-law. In season 1, episode 6, Short Fuse, Columbo mentions that Mrs. Columbo has a kid brother.
You know, my wife's kid brother, he's a nut on photography, too. Wonderful hobby.
He's not seen or mentioned again. On to the next. We've got the attorney. So season 1, episode 7, Blueprint for Murder, Columbo references a brother-in-law who's an attorney.
Stop by to see my brother-in-law. He's an attorney.
It could be George, but I doubt it. If it were George, he probably would have said the name again, so I'm treating this as a separate person until proven otherwise. We've also got another brother-in-law, back to Dagger of the Mind. Columbo says that he's got a brother-in-law in the National Guard.
I borrowed this camera from him. See, he's in the National Guard. He thinks he looks good in his uniform.
Again, it could be George. I guess it could be the attorney. It could even be the photographer, kid brother. But until evidence says otherwise, I'm going to keep them all as separate. This family is big enough already. Trust me, adding another one will not hurt. On to the sisters-in-law. The first one is mentioned in season 1, episode 2, Death Lends a Hand. Columbo tells Brimmer that his sister-in-law is looking for a beach house.
My sister-in-law, she wants to buy a place out at the beach. How do you like it out there?
If any of the family mentions were going to be lies, I would pick this one. But again, we are treating everything as canon today. So, sister-in-law exists. Wants beach house. Moving on. The other sister-in-law is Cynthia. She is mentioned in season 1, episode 3, Deadweight. Columbo names Cynthia when comforting Helen Stewart at the end when she finds out that the only reason that Major General Hollister has been pursuing her is because she witnessed him commit a murder. Technically, Cynthia could be the same sister-in-law as the beach house woman. After all, Columbo only gives her a name because Helen asks if these characters are real.
Lieutenant, I mean, just between us, would you tell me the truth? Do you really have a niece?
So there's actually no real way of knowing, but for now, they are 2 different people. Okay, on to Mrs. Columbo's nieces and nephews. Back to season 1, Deadweight. This one is easier to explain if I just play the clip.
That's just the way my niece Marilyn felt after her divorce. Now she's got a new husband. As a matter of fact, he's a cop, and they got 6 kids. Of course I've got a niece. My wife's sister's girl, Cynthia.
So, we've got a niece called Marilyn, her ex-husband, her new cop husband, and 6 children. And the mother, Cynthia, as mentioned earlier. Straightforward enough. Honestly, this side of the family is thriving. Good for them. Okay, now we've got a bit more information about Mrs. Columbo's side. We can get back to this contact lens nephew conundrum. Here is where my brain went when placing him. Firstly, if he's a kid, could he just be Mrs. Columbo's younger kid brother who loves photography? Maybe Columbo just calls him nephew affectionately. But then, as you mentioned earlier, Columbo says that the nephew's contact lenses fall out during breakfast. This implies that this person has eaten breakfast at the Columbo residence. Multiple times, possibly, but frequently enough that Columbo has noticed a pattern of contact lenses falling out during the morning meal. Thirdly, remember when George was at their house speaking to Nora Chandler? Well, if he's around there frequently, this could be George's son. Could this nephew be George's son? These are the only two characters so far that we see at their house, so it wouldn't be too far-fetched to say that they are father and son. So, what did I do? I placed him on Columbo's side. Columbo actually names George, as we've seen. So if the nephew were George's son, you'd expect him to say George's boy. He doesn't, so that's what I'm going on. Okay, nephew confirmed. But who are his parents? So I gave Columbo another sibling. I'm fast forwarding a bit here, but in season 7, episode 2, Make Me a Perfect Murder, Columbo mentions that he has a very large family with lots of siblings. So giving him a second sibling is honestly not a stretch. Are there holes in this reasoning? Absolutely. Is this tree rigid? Not at all. If you have an alternate explanation, please, please, please leave it in the comments. Okay, so that's the main family done. Got some special mentions. We cannot forget Dog, introduced in season 2. Dog, I'm pretty sure, is a basset hound, famously unnamed. Well, at least we just hear him as Dog. And he becomes a fixture of the show. This sad-looking, droopy companion who kind of perfectly matches Columbo's energy. Also, special mention to Harry, mentioned in season 2. This is the first friend of Columbo's that's been mentioned so far, so he gets an honourable mention.
First time in 2 years I figured I'd finally get to go bowling. My friend Harry's outside. He's ready to go. He's honking the horn.
And there we have it, folks. Every single mention of Columbo's family members from seasons 1 and 2. From a grandfather with dentures, a nephew with a Hungarian wife, 6 children running around Marilyn's house, multiple brothers-in-law who may or may not be the same person. It is messy, chaotic, inconsistent. Basically, it's Columbo. Let me know in the comments which relatives you actually think exist. Should the dentures grandfather be moved to the mother's side? Or where do you think this contact lens nephew should be placed? Thank you for watching, and please subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you for seasons 3 and 4, where I'm sure things will get even more complicated. I've already started my notes, and oh boy, there's a cousin, multiple uncles, a whole subplot about Mrs. Columbo's sister. It's going to be chaos, but that is a problem for future me. Just one more thing, leave your theories in the comments. See you next time.